Okay, I will have to build a template first. An outline model of events that paints a path which brought me to where I am and how I became who I am so that I can input this into my simulation program. This program will help me handle my more complicated tasks and adversaries, but to use it accurately, I must provide it a clear picture of who I am, my skills, and what it is I face. From there I can map out expected outcomes, how they'll unfold and foresee obstacles before they present themselves. I shall rough draft an outline of who I am and how I began this path from the beginning. Where exactly the beginning starts, I'm not sure. There were forces at play that sparked the origin of my existence long before I walked this earth as a human. What I am isn't clear. I'm not human. I guess you could say that I am a highly evolved hybrid of human due to an unforeseen side effect because of my role and duties in heaven as the angel, Lucifer, son of the morning star and bearer of the first dawn in creation. In translation, my position in heaven was the cup-bearer of the first light in creation, a vessel through which God used to create the universe and spark the origin of inertia in existence. Scripture refers to me simply as the Word. Before the beginning of existence, I lived within existence, yet still not exactly as a man. I had always been different and had a gift that I was naturally born with, conductive or kinetic electricity that I could redirect its flow, generate and build up to arc a spark from my body to another object or person. I first discovered this as a child, but later mastered it as an adult. As a kid, I would torment my brother by shocking him from a distance as an arc of blue light and a brief electric discharge would reach out from me to him. It was enough to make him jump and get mad begging my mom to make me stop. Later, I learned how to adapt this skill and alter the motion of objects by redirecting the path of kinetic friction they generate while they move. All motion creates a discharge of kinetically generated energy due to the mass of objects around it and the friction it causes as it passes by those objects. Later, I discovered I had the ability to cross dimensional boundaries and alternate timelines by slipping between the fabrics of interwoven particles between dimensions, but I'm getting ahead of myself. Before all that, after I discovered my unique skills, I soon later discovered I could project a duplicated projection of my life force, or the energy that gives the body life. Not only could I take that projected form and emulate the sensory characteristics of animals, but I could change that projected form into whatever animals I choose. As long as I understood the basics of its physical structure, I could move as they do, such as birds. Birds have a heightened sense of feeling in every feather. Each one is like its own finger with nerves and feelings of touch. This helps the bird to navigate its flight through the air. The serpent actually moves much like an earthworm. Its scale is like a suction cup of an octopus or manticle of a caterpillar, gripping the ground and pushing itself along. Soon I discovered I could project that form across time. The particle field of time is but a reflection imprinted on the fabrics of light particles that are always in motion close to the speed of light, between 990 to 0.36 million miles per hour to 996.8 for a million miles per hour. So to travel across time, all I needed to do was project my avatar, as I call it, at those speeds. Find the exact frequency of light that contained the time period's reflection I'm seeking. Exceed the speed of light to enter a field beyond time and space with my destination focused on that frequency of light resonating pattern of spectrum frequency. Then slowed down below the speed of the temporal particles of light to re-enter the universe at that moment of time's point of being imprinted on the light particle and viola. My projected form was able to travel to other time periods. However, this method has a side effect on my physical body due to the connection my projected form still had to it. It caused my body to rapidly evolve by millions, if not hundreds of millions of years by the time I returned to it, causing me to become what I have, a luminous being within a physical shell, and if I evolved too far, then that luminous being would evolve past the need for a physical conduit. But I managed to find a way to reverse my evolution to return to the physical state. Having discovered this innate ability, I realized what its implications meant. It meant that I was the one they would come to call God, the creator of all that is. Using my logical reasoning, I thought about the effects these abilities could achieve and decided to set out onto the path of creation. But religious historical accounts had said that God consisted of a unity of beings working together as one. So I designed the idea of the Trinity beings and chose to examine those who I saw as the greatest men who had achieved the highest states of enlightenment to wisdom and adapted it to use to help others. I prepared my plan and set my course. But then there was a sudden problem. My physical body had suffered a fatal injury and died. An infection caused by a car accident injury called whiplash long ago had been damaged. That injury grew into a small golf ball-sized infection in my neck muscles, and it had just burst. I felt the warm liquid of the infection running down my spinal column. Then I collapsed as the blockage of blood flowed to my brain, causing swelling in the vein in my temple to solidify as hard as a tendon. Burst, and I had an aneurysm. Thinking I was dead and having been in a projected state, I just shrugged. Then I was attacked. I was in a different place suddenly with a different body fighting of waves of attackers. I had no weapon, so I killed the first guy by breaking his neck and took his sword, then began cleaving my way through the waves of attackers who came in waves of 2s and 3s until I finally had no room left to swing my sword due to the bodies that had piled up round me. Seeing what was coming, I uttered a spell I had memorized that sacrificed my soul to myself, that no one could claim it, and then fell upon my own sword. A woman, an archer, who was once my daughter before she died and was changed into this evil woman who stood before me, walked up and knelt down as I drew my last breath and whispered in my ear, "Honorable King's death," and I died. Again, as everything shifted into a blur, and I was taken up above the earth, past the planets in our system, beyond the galaxies and even the multiple possibilities of universes we hadn't even yet conceived, as I saw that it was all but a space the size of his ankle when compared to the size of the creator of it all. And I saw him move far above existence itself as we were traveling. From his ankle, I realized that there was an angel, unseen, traveling with me as we went towards the light above, and I was then standing before a gate with an old man with spectacles and a large jewel-encrusted gold book with my name on it. Without looking up, he said, "Name, please." I thought about all that had happened throughout my life and what I had become in the end, and I finally succumbed to what had been said to me many times in my life that I had dismissed as impossible. I said, "Lucifer, Beelzebub, Mephistopheles," as I looked into my palm, trying to generate the kinetic energy to assure myself of what I said, but there was no energy. This energy I had since a child was gone. The angel who was with me looked at my hand and asked what I was looking for, and I said, "My mystical energy. What happened?" And the old man just raised his eyebrow and looked over the book and said, "Is that with one L or two?" Suddenly the gates opened and a warm light surrounded me. A booming voice that both was frighteningly stern but peaceful and soothing said from all round me at once,
"If I give you power, you must do one thing for me. Never trade."
I looked into my palm again, and I slowly walked through the process and managed to spark the energy and called forth my ball of kinetic energy as I smiled and said, "I already have power. Why would I want yours, let alone betray you for it?" The booming voice then said,
"Come, walk."
And suddenly I was standing on a beach, and I realized that every grain of sand was in itself an entire universe, and I was standing on God's sketchboard, and there was enough of them to create an entire beach. Then I saw a man who looked as tall as the sky, but looked like a statue. He had 1 foot on land and 1 in the sea. He had rainbows as sandal straps and clouds as sandals. He had in his hand 7 stars in one and a candelabra with 12 candles, each one for each of the tribes of Judah, and each star was for each of the angels of the churches, and a booming voice spoke, That vibrated all round me at once again. I questioned, but only for a split second, about who this was, but his voice vibrated into every aspect of my perception, that without a doubt it was God who I was standing before as he said,
I am God of your father's father. I am the creator of all that is, was and has yet to be, from the Alpha to the Omega of all things, creator of the heavens and the earth, the God of Moses who delivered the Hebrews from bondage, appeared before Abraham, Isaac and Jacob. I am their father.
As he spoke, his form grew smaller as he walked towards me. Then he was standing at my height, and he looked like Zeus, but his hair was neatly cut short, and his eyes were like that of columns of fire, and he said to me,
I have waited a long time for you. This day forward your name shall be listed. Son of the morning star, bearer of the first dawning creation. My mightiest and most powerful angel I ever or ever will create. Through you I shall create the universe, for I made you to be my incorruptible vessel to my my left hand in creation. Do you wish to know all that you will suffer because of this name?
And in a glimpse I saw everything that would transpire because of the belief of others to this name. He then said,
You shall be one of my greatest endeavors, for I shall give to you what no other angel has been given, the gift of free will like that of man.
God stretched out his hand and said,
Now that you have seen what will befall you, I ask if you are ready to take that step to achieve your purpose for which I have made you.
I shrugged my shoulders and said, Why not? It's not like I have anything better to do. Off we went like something from Star Wars. At light speed we traveled. Entire galaxies and systems shooting past us as streaks of white light. Where are we going? I asked, and he said,
To the beginning of time.
As we neared a vector point where all things seemed to be coming from, he said,
This is as far as we can go.
Off to the side I noticed a huge black hole. No, it isn't, as I steered our momentum towards the black hole's event horizon. We swung round the center, using the momentum to increase our speed, and then veered off towards the junction that all things were coming from as we crashed through the barrier of time and off the proverbial tracks of space. There we sat in a limitless nothingness, and our physical state of existence was beginning to fall apart. Where are we? I asked, and God looked around. There was nothing at all, not even darkness.
This is the primordial void. We shouldn't be here. Nothing should be here.
And I said, No, we're here. I lifted my hand to snap my fingers, and God did the same as his holy fire, and my kinetic energy fused as one, and together we said, Let there be light. And we snapped as his flame and my spark collided, and there suddenly expanded a great light within the nothingness as the primordial void dissipated, filled in by the sudden backdraft effect of particle fusion's possibility. There is more physics that made this all possible. More than just our presence, but I shall reserve that information and simply leave it at this, that we were the inertia of existence's beginning. For that is all that is needed to be known. In the center of space stood a bright star with hues of colors of red and orange and yellow like waves of flames, spiraling up into columns and moving across the surface like waves cascading from one color to another. We sat hovering over the surface. God asked,
What now?
As he looked smiling at me, I stepped back a bit and said, Now you find out why they call me the Devourer of Souls. And I inhaled, stripping every bit of energy from the star except for just a fraction needed for what came next. The star went suddenly dark as sunspot-like areas began to solidify over the surface, causing it to form a hard black crust over it. Then cracks of orange and red began to spread across it. More and more, until suddenly there was this deafening boom and a bright flash of light as I went flying backwards, head over heels, shooting across the empty space. God caught me by the foot as I thanked him, and we stood watching the stakes of colors fly past us, witnessing the birth of the cosmic web and expansion era begin. God looked at what we had done and said,
Those will become the center of galaxies one day.
He smiled and said,
It is good.
"That was the beginning of existence. Having measured the time since then, I have calculated the time frame of the beginning to have been 5,380 billion years ago, roughly, and for collapses into the singularity as the universe collapsed and expanded again in its extremely long cycle of existence, which the end I have measured to be 538T, for a billion years in total from the alpha to the omega of all things. That is my testimony so far. There is more, but I'm going to take a break and let that settle and see how it functions within my simulation model.